Now it is time to introduce our main speaker for the night, Bill.
It's pretty big. Bill, alcoholic. All I can think about is my prostrate. Started throbbing while he was talking. I love the cowbell. I love the War of the Bells. You know? We got the devil sitting right over here. Seems appropriate. Oh, what's true? Well, I was a surfer and a biker and a tough guy. And I never went to the beach. My motorcycle rarely ran. And I was afraid to fight. But I looked really good. I had a chrome Nazi helmet for a hat and a primary chain for a belt and black greasy Levi's and big black boots with chains around them. I've got tattoos all over me. But I had a clip-on earring because I didn't want to hurt myself. That's my story. I see that there's some other phonies in the room. They don't get that down at the Rotary Club. By the time I was 17, I was a bad drunk in high school. You couldn't talk to me. I had the sneer and the slouch and the big jacket and a foul mouth and a bad attitude. And I was big and obnoxious and loud. And if you had any kind of authority at all, it just pissed me off. And I wasn't shy, and I was armed some of the time. You know, I think the whole drinking thing, if I remember correctly, the whole idea about the drinking thing was to have a couple of drinks and get out of the house and go to the party and have some fun. I mean, every one of us, in one way or another, we tell the story about how before we ever started drinking or using or anything, we didn't feel part of. We didn't feel part of what was going on. It was like the aliens dropped us off and we were waiting for the mothership to return. We all have our little way of talking about that, and we talk about it like it's some kind of a unique to alcoholics experience. I think every kid feels that way. Every kid. You don't know the rules. You're trying to figure it out, and everybody's talking at you and rolling their eyes at you, and after a while you feel like you're just lame. And part of the growing up process is figuring out what's going on. The only difference between us and those other kids is we medicated it and we never grew up. We never got to the other side of it. And we use this term too, which is interesting. We talk about alcoholic thinking, as if there is any such thing. The only place you ever hear that term is in Alcoholics Anonymous. Matter of fact, Silkworth, the guy that wrote the Doctor's Opinion, wrote a paper on it in the early 40s. You can just imagine him hanging around in the early AA meetings going, oh God, they're making shit up now, And he went out and wrote a paper on it. And the rest of the professional community calls it pretty much what it is. We are emotionally immature. And we hear that and we go, no. I have special thinking. I have alcoholic thinking and it's never going away. And you need to consider that when you're dealing with me. I have special thinking. Well, armed with our special thinking and not feeling part of, we have that drink. And it's cured. We're connected. All the promises come true when we're drinking, all of them. We have no fear of economic insecurity, Drinks for everybody, God will provide, We lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows, And so we have that drink and we get out of the house. We get out of the house. Well, I don't know about you, when I started drinking, after a while, I ended up naked in my living room watching religious television, taking notes. Party! You know? I mean, I'm having sex menage a uno. There's no one else in the room. Next time you see some guy walk into AA and he says, well, I'm just a party kind of guy, ask him, how many other people were at the party? You know? We have an odd propensity to end up completely alone. You know, I mean, physically completely alone. We end up, and we will fight for our right to party like that, you know? I mean, the arrogance of alcoholism is incredible. You know? Incredible. A strange thing happened to me in March of 1985. I got sober. What a remarkable experience that is. Incredible experience. I think when we're around here for a while, we have a tendency to take it for granted. You know, we get used to living a sober life. Doesn't take very long, a few years, and pretty soon it's just the way things are. And you forget what a remarkable experience it was to get sober. We were awakened. My life got saved. You know, rarely do you hear the story of the guy in the drunk tank and he gets on his knees and he asks God for help and it happens. You know, sometimes you hear that. I think most of us just fall over from the sheer exhaustion of the lifestyle. You know, we run it into the ground. And then something happens, something remarkable happens. My journey in AA really didn't begin then. It began in March of 1954 when my dad got sober. When he died in '99, he was 45 years sober. And I, on top of all my other problems, I grew up in an AA house. You know, I grew up in one of those houses that has a lot of weird uncles around, you know. All of a sudden, these people started showing up, and we had a lot of barbecues all of a sudden. There were a lot of get-togethers, you know, lots of coffee, and everybody smoked in the 50s, you know. I mean, it's what was happening. I'd come home from school and there'd be some guy laying on the back porch waiting for his sponsor to come home. I'd get him up and drag him in the house. One day I came home, there was a woman hiding in the garage. That was the Al-Anon. Don't make Al-Anon jokes if you don't know what it is. A lot of people make a lot of stupid Al-Anon jokes. But if you know what it is, you can make some great Al-Anon jokes. Stop and think of the consciousness of an individual that would live with us on purpose. What are they thinking? You know, oh, this will be fun. One of the guys that hung around on the back porch was this guy named Harold, and Harold just had a hard time getting sober. He had no job, no car, no money, and my dad would get him clothes and drive him to meetings and give him jobs around the house and stuff to put money in his pocket. And finally, Harold got sober, and he showed up. He had a car, he got a job, you know, he started looking nice, you know, and he was a nice man before, but he was even nicer after he got sober. He was real warm guy. I really liked him. And he met a woman in AA and they got married and I went to the wedding. And then when I was 13 years old, I went to his funeral. He had gotten drunk and he got divorced and he burned himself up alive in a hotel room, drunk, smoking in bed. And I was 13 and I knew that the reason that that man died was because he drank. It wasn't some horrible accident. And when alcoholics drink, bad stuff happens. Bad stuff happens. We make the joke, you know, at first it's fun, then it's fun with problems, and then it's problems. Well, depending upon how long you stayed out there in the problem mode, it gets really ugly. And for me, when I started drinking, the party ended fairly quickly. I mean, I remember having some fun. But the stories that I hear now about what was really going on, I wonder how much fun it really was. It became a lifestyle for me right away. Bad drunk at 17. By the time I was 22, I was in the Oregon State Mental Institution. I needed a rest. You know. Anybody else here been in a mental institution? Well, that's not bad. But there's some of you out there going, well, it really wasn't an institution. They were just observing me, you know. I had gotten married at 18, and we had a couple of kids, and I was running with an outlaw motorcycle gang. We went to Oregon to grow our own, and I was sticking needles in my arm every day and drinking like a fish. And they were on welfare, and I wasn't coming home to that family, and I ended up in a mental institution. And the way you end up in a mental institution is not because you had a bad week. You know, I mean, this was a regular full-on. This was actually the institution that Ken Kesey worked in, and when he wrote Cuckoo's Nest. Kesey was right up the road. I was right on the same ward. I think that's kind of cool. And, it had barbed wire over the fence, you know, and you could look right across the street to the penitentiary so you could see where you were going or coming from, one or the other. And I spoke up in Salem, Oregon a while back where that institution is, and I hadn't been back there, and I was trying to find the place and get to it, and they have a little dinner party on Friday nights for the speakers and the committee and stuff, and I'm sitting next to this guy about my age, and long ponytail, and old hippie from California that went up there and never left, and he was sober about the same time as me, and we struck up, we hit it right off, and I told him, I says, you know, I was in the mental institution over there, and he looked at me and laughed, and he goes, I work there. And I looked at him and I went, well, of course you do, you know, I mean, it's, and he says, you want to go visit? I go, absolutely. So he called security and he says, I've got a dignitary from California. And on Sunday, he took me around there and had my picture taken by the sign, you know. I mean, some people went to college, and I went to the mental institution, you know. This is my alma mater, you know. And I just thought that was very cool. Back in the 60s, the road from San Francisco to Los Angeles to San Francisco was a road to Nirvana. Golden Gate Park was the center of the universe. They weren't eating hitchhikers yet, so it was safe to travel, you know. And the young ladies were discovering their sexuality, and we were helping them as best we could, you know. I've told so many, you hear people in AA say, I wouldn't trade my worst day sober for my best day drunk. I wouldn't trade 66 and 67 for anything. I mean, from what I understand, it was a real hoot, you know. And I've told so many lies about it, I'm really not sure what the truth is, you know. I'm pretty sure that I didn't live with Joan Baez, you know. You know, for you younger people, ask an older person who she was, you know. But I said I lived with her for years. So I got out of the mental institution, I came back to California, and one of the requirements for being an alcoholic is you must hate your parents. It's mandatory. And for the alcoholic life to seem like the only normal one, you can never ever take responsibility for your own behavior. It must be someone else's fault. The reason you can't take responsibility is because our behavior is just indefensible. You know, and how the alcoholic life becomes normal, I don't know. When did it become okay to pee on your friends and stuff? You know, it's like, but we're able to construct this reality around us that makes it kind of okay, you know. I was always peeing in somebody's closet and stuff, you know. I mean, it's like, you just kind of come to and go, oh, nice shoes, you know? So I hated my parents. They sent me to my first shrink when I was 13 years old because I had rage, not anger, rage. You can get off on rage, and it doesn't have to be rational. You can just flip out. And I would double over, fall on the floor, and the bile come up from my stomach into my neck, and the veins throbbing, eyes bulging, fist into the wall, head into the wall, just right at the injustice of it all. And my mother looked at that and said, but there's something wrong with the boy, you know. This is just not that bad here, you know. And so I went to my first shrink when I was 13. So when I came back down from Oregon back down to California, you know, I hated my parents, but when you need something, you could overlook certain things. And I needed some stuff, and my old man let me sleep in his garage, and he gave me a job in his machine shop in El Segundo. And I tried to clean up my act. And first thing you got to do is you got to quit shooting heroin. You can't find anybody to go along with the concept of social heroin use. It's pretty much a lifestyle. You know, you got to quit taking acid because regular people have communication with each other. And LSD is not conducive to two-way communication. You know, it's pretty much a one-sided deal. And you can only drink on the weekend because normal people have jobs and they go to them days in a row. I've watched them do it, man. It's like, you know, and when I drink, I don't show up no matter what. And so what you do during the week is you smoke pot because it's green and it's from God and it's not really drugs, you know. It's what you do in between getting really high. And so I tried this experiment for another 15 years. The other thing is an alcoholic of my variety, you got to find a woman because I can never, ever be alone. It is a group effort getting me through life. It takes a village, you know. And so I met this girl and we set up housekeeping, and I went on for another 15 years. And by the time I was 37 years old, I was married and I had 2 small children at the time, and I was as miserable as I ever hoped to be in my life. I lived in the house with this woman and these 2 kids, and I had no emotional connection to another living human being. And I didn't know that. I didn't know it was that bad. I can't stand outside myself and have a separate experience and engage the one that I'm having and determine where I'm at. You know, I don't know that. It seems okay to me. It seems normal to me to be. I don't know that I'm disconnected. I mean, I see my kids and I feel something for them, you know, but I'm not clear on any of that. I don't know what's going on with me. I just know that I drank to the point to where it stopped working. You ever drank yourself clear? That was never the idea, was it? You know, I mean, you're drinking and you're not going away. I'm the kind of drinker that I'm drinking for the blackout. The blackout's okay with me. I want to go away. I don't like it here. I don't get along well here. And I have a lot of pain in my body. I had hepatitis C, and I didn't even know it then, you know. And my liver was sticking out on one side, and I hurt everywhere. I weighed well over 300 pounds. I was just a bloated, sweaty mess. You know, and I'd come home late at night, and for some reason, I don't know why, but we're always nuding up, you know. I mean, I would get naked. I guess I was sweaty. And I'd sit in my alcoholic chair, you know, and drink what it was ever, and then I'd wake up in the morning with my head down and just a big puddle of drool on my stomach, you know. And the wife, I bet she just thought I was cute as hell, huh? You know, for a while there, she'd get me up and bring me to bed. She just would leave me there, you know. I remember I went to the doctor one time because I had aches and pains everywhere, and he gave me a treadmill test, and he goes, well, your heart's okay, but your body is caving in around it, man, you know. It's like... But I had no emotional connection to anybody. So like any good gangster, I called my mom. You know? Well, next time you see some big badass guy walking in here, walk up and ask him, do you live with your mom? Because chances are she's the only one left. And he probably complains about her. Well, she doesn't understand me. Well, you're 45 years old, man, you know. So my mother came and got me, and she checked me into this place called Starting Point in Costa Mesa. This was March of '85. Now, I told you I went to my first shrink when I was 13. I went to the mental institution twice. I liked it there. And I was in group therapy for 2.5 years at one time. I've been to several other shrinks and psychiatrists. I've been gestalted and rolfed and primal screamed. I know more about myself than is safe to know. So when it was time for me to seek out some help, even though I was familiar with AA, you know, I kind of grew up in meetings and I knew all the other kids. But I couldn't imagine just coming in here and going to meetings and not drinking. I don't even know really what was on my mind as far as getting sober. I don't know that I was clear about that. I knew the alcohol was killing me. And all the other hard drugs and stuff, for the most part, were gone. I wasn't shooting dope anymore. There wasn't any rock and roll. There was no hip stuff happening. It was me and a gin bottle primarily, and I was sucking on that thing, and it was killing me, and I could feel death coming up behind me. But I couldn't imagine coming in here, so I need to be checked in. I need more therapy. I need some Thorazine or something, you know. I need something to help me. And while I was in this place, I was in there for 35 days, they made me wear a sign around my neck. I had to make the sign. We made it in crafts. It was a little rectangular piece of cardboard with a string that went through it, and it said, "I am not a counselor." Because evidently there was some confusion about that. Man, I'd help people do their inventory. I'd help them do their four-step. I'd say, put some homosexual stuff in there. They like to read about that. You know, makes them think you're telling the truth. You know? And you probably did it. You just don't remember, you know. Well, I woke up with a couple of guys, but it wasn't anything serious, you know. It's kind of where you end up, you know. Good morning. Excuse me. We share in a general way, you know. Oh, dear. So, they let me out. They just let us out, you know. They let us out like we're okay, you know. It's like, go forth, multiply, you know. Here's your 10% off relapse card, man, you know. And they let us out. And where do we end up? Here. This is the world's aftercare program, man. It's linoleum floors and metal folding chairs for the rest of our natural lives. Party! You know? So what the hell's going on here? What are we doing here, you know? People talk about the program all the time. Are you working your program? I'm working my program. Your program. I mean, there's this illusion like there's a lot of different programs, and they have different names on them, like Bill and Joe and Sam and Charity, and you know, there's different programs. I think there's only one. You know, there's just one program. We'd like there to be different ones. But here now we're here, you know, and we run into all kinds of experts. You know, I mean, the inmates are running the asylum here. Stop and think about this. I've been married 3 times. People ask me for relationship advice. And I give it. Frightening, isn't it, you know? So what is this thing? You ever had anybody say to you, he's not emotionally available for me? You ever heard that? That's frequent. You know, I mean, it's said in different ways. You know, you're not there for me. You don't listen to me. You know, I can't connect with you. You're not connected. You know, we need to work with, there's communication blockage. You know, something's going on. You know what they mean by that when they say that is that I've got something that they want and I'm withholding it. The truth is worse. I don't have it. And I don't know that I don't have it. You've convinced me that I've got it, and I'm helping you look for it. And this dance is going to go on forever. You know, now that I'm sober, people have all these expectations. You know, all of a sudden I'm going to get wonderful. You know? Now, if you would like me to be intimate with you, and what I mean by intimacy, I'm not talking about sex. Sex can be a celebration of intimacy, but it isn't intimacy, and we confuse that all the time. You know, we really confuse that. Everybody does. Intimacy to me is when I'm capable of feeling what you feel. I'm no longer just reacting to how you feel impacts me, but I'm feeling what you feel. I'm connected to you. There's an empathy there. I get it, and in a non-intellectual way. Doesn't require a lot of communication. It's me actually being there. And when I'm really there, you know that I'm there. It doesn't require us to identify it and label it. It's happening all the time. If you would like that, it's going to take me about 10 years. I'm not kidding. You know, what happened to you and I, this is what I believe. This is just my opinion, but it's a really good one. When you and I started drinking, using when we were teenagers, we stopped growing emotionally. And now that I'm sober, I'm going to start the process now. So all this stuff that they're trying to help me uncover, discover, and discard isn't there. It never developed in me. The depth of my shallowness knows no bounds. I'm a pretty good mimic. I can cry at poignant beer commercials, you know. I mean, there's the illusion that I have some feelings. And my sponsor loves to say we have one feeling. That's it. You know, and it's all about me. I'm completely self-centered, just like a teenager. And they're supposed to be that way. They're growing up. They feel disconnected. They don't feel part of. They're learning the rules. Now that I'm sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm going to go through that process, and you cannot speed it up. But you can definitely slow it down by picking and choosing what you will and won't do with this finely tuned instrument that you bring here. You know? And there's people around here that will let you do that. They'll say really incredible things like, take what you can use and leave the rest, as if I haven't been living my entire life by that code. That's how I've always lived. Take what was easy, take what was simple, take what was yours, and leave the rest. Now you're going to allow me to do that here, this place where I'm supposed to save myself? Don't try to make it too comfortable for me. Recovery by its very nature is uncomfortable. Sobriety by its very nature is uncomfortable. I'm not medicated anymore. I'm a raw goddamn nerve. You know, I walk into the room, and if you don't pay attention to me, you're an asshole. If you do pay attention to me, you're aggressive. You know, there's no middle ground, you know. There's no subtlety in my life. It's either chaos or sleep. You know, that's it. I mean, the first time peace happened to me, I thought I was bored. You know, I don't get this thing. So the first step, so we come in here and we ask for help. And if we're lucky, we'll get somebody that will actually help us by taking us into a room somewhere, maybe invite us over to their house where we're alone, nobody else is around, so there isn't the illusion that Alcoholics Anonymous is the meetings, because it's not. AA is not the meetings. Alcoholics Anonymous is sitting across the kitchen table from someone else and turning the pages in the book and sharing your life with another human being and actually working the steps. And I got lucky. I found a guy that did that. And we went through this process, and the first step tells me that I'm powerless and my life is unmanageable. Now, they took it easy on us. They said we're just powerless over alcohol because they didn't want us to run down the street with our hair on fire, you know? And after 24 years of pretty deep research, I've yet to find anything I have any power over. I think I'm absolutely and utterly powerless. I don't think I get re-empowered after I get sober. I don't think there's any shortcuts to this. I think in nature, I am powerless, and I don't require any power. And this is good news to finally find this out, because therein lies my suffering. I have no power. I think I do, and I try and assert myself in the world, and I get resentful and angry and fearful because I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I don't require any power. At best, it just unfolds in front of me, and I'm an audience watching the movie. And if they want me up there on the screen, they come out from behind the screen, walk out into the audience, reach down, call me by my name, and say, "Bill, come with me now." And they take me back there. I don't have to figure it out when the black crows fly over the moon. I take a left at the fork in the road, you know? I don't have to go consult with somebody to find out what I should do. It's really obvious. And I am so complex, at least I think I am, that I miss it all the time. I don't get the signals. If I'm utterly powerless, then how could I possibly manage anything? Because managers have power. If I grasp this, the second step becomes operational. I need a manager, or I need to hook up with the one that may be there. To restore me to sanity, certainly enough sanity not to drink, but also enough sanity to recognize how powerless and unmanageable I am. To really see that so I can stop suffering. The third step then becomes operational. I need to turn my life and will over to it. What life and will? The fourth step, the resentments, the fears, and the broken relationships. That's the life and will. It is not a life story. It's a 4-column resentment list, a fear list, and a broken relationship list. Because if I'm filled with resentment and fear, and that's all I have to bring to the table in relationships, how could I possibly have a healthy one? And of course I'm resentful because I'm powerless and I don't know it. And I'm frightened because deep down inside I know this is not working. This isn't working, and I'm frightened. And I can't show that because I'm a man. So I show anger. The fifth step is the ceremony that we go through to complete the third step. I finally tell myself, maybe for the first time in my life, another human being and this manager, here's my stuff. 6 and 7 step are about character defects. You can see what they are. They're in the 4th column of the resentment list, my faults and mistakes. There they are. I'm judgmental, I'm prejudiced, I'm fear-based, I'm aggressive, I'm angry, I'm whatever your cute little mix is, you know. You can see what it is. There's nothing to do in the 6th and 7th step other than to become willing and say, yes, I would like to have this taken away. Please do, but we can't fix ourselves, I'm powerless. So then the manager gives us an assignment. He says, make amends, make a list and make amends. So at the end of that 9th step, if I do that, and most people don't do this stuff, by the way. If at the end of that 9th step, am I emotionally available for you now? No. No. This is Sober 101. It's about 15% of the program. We write manuals on it. We have seminars over it. We have 74-column 4 steps. And we have, it's incredible the amount of energy we put in this. If you're sitting out there tonight and you're 3 or 4 years sober and you're on your 5th inventory, stop it. You've missed the point. It's not about you. It never was. It's not about you. At the end of the 9th step, maybe I have some self-esteem. Maybe I feel part of AA, part of something for the first time in my life. You'll hear people say, you've got to give it away to keep it. Keep what? What do I have? What is it I'm trying to keep? Is this thing just about not drinking? I don't think so. I think it's about a lot more than that. You don't have to give it away to keep it. You got to give it away to even get it. You don't get it until you give it away. People will say 10, 11, and 12 are the maintenance steps. Maintain what? The 10th step is living an examined life. It's the continuing inventory process. And I'm no longer bouncing off the walls walking down the hallway now. I'm walking straight down the center because I can watch myself move through life. I keep tabs on it. I pay attention. It's directly connected to the 11th step. The 11th step is all about sucking up to the manager. It would behoove us to get tight with the boss. In spirituality, in meditation, I can have the experience of actually watching my thoughts. If that's the case, I come to understand that I am not my thinking mind. This thing is not out to get me. It's not adversarial. It's not a bad neighborhood, don't go in there alone. It just is what it is. And I can detach from it. I can have the experience. I do not have to be victim to what it comes up with. I can close my eyes and get in touch with it and feel what's going on and watch these thoughts, and they have a tendency to slink off. And what is it I'm doing when I do that? I'm coming into the moment, into this moment right now, which is the only one we have. The 11th step is not extra credit, my sponsor likes to say. Meditation is not extra credit. It's part of the program. And there's a reason for it. The 12th step is why we're here. It's why we were saved. You'll hear people in AA say there's many different forms of 12-step work. No, there's not. That's just a chicken gate so you can keep from doing the hard stuff. You know, there is no other form of 12-step work other than me working with you. That's it. Everything else is an activity. Activities are fine, but don't mistake the activities for the action. If you're sitting out there and you're a few years sober and you're not sponsoring anybody, you're not doing AA. You may not like that, but it doesn't change the truth of it. You're not doing it. There's only one reason why you and I are here. There's only one reason why we were saved. When I get on my knees and I ask for help, if I'm in pain and I get on my knees and I ask for help, I shouldn't send it away when it shows up and it's going to look a lot like you. You know, He's going to send me you. I cannot recover without you. You are an integral part of my recovery. If I'm not engaged with you, I'm not recovering. I'm treading water. 2 rules. Ooh, rules. 2 rules. Always answer the phone. Get rid of caller ID. Have faith that whoever is coming to you is supposed to be there. Stop controlling your life. Stop it. Let Him control it. You'll be surprised what happens. You'll be surprised how your life changed. Rule number 2, never say no. Have faith that you will be sent to where you're supposed to go, to be with who you're supposed to be with, all the time. It never changes. I used to stand up at these podiums and I'd say that if you were on medication, you weren't sober, because it seemed like a really good, badass opinion to have. You know, so I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, but I would say that. And then finally, I'll promise you, if you open your heart to this work, if you let this in, whatever prejudice you have will walk across the room and ask you for help. You know. And then you have a decision to make. You can send it away so that you can maintain the prejudice, because as soon as you let it into your life, you find yourself in it. So this guy walked up to me and he said, "Will you be my sponsor?" He says, "I'm bipolar and I'm on medication." I went, "Oh, geez, one of these losers." You know. But I can't say no, ever, ever. So I said, all right, and I start working with this guy, and I had the experience of peeling him off the ceiling and lifting him up off the floor. One time he came across my living room, 40-year-old grown man, curled up in my lap, put his head in my neck, and cried like a baby. Karen went walking through the living room, and she goes, "Whoa, you know, dude." You know. And I just stood there and rocked him. You know. Now when I see that guy come and I say, "Have you taken your medication? Have you had your blood levels checked lately, man? You have issues." You know? So I had an opinion. Then I had an experience, and it changed my opinion. That's how it works. It's experiential, it's not intellectual. It's not about knowing the page numbers. It's not being able to quote the book. It's about doing it. That's how we change. And another guy walked up to me and he said, "Will you be my sponsor? I think I should tell you that I'm gay." I said, "Well, wouldn't you rather have a gay sponsor?" And he goes, "No." He says, "I don't have any problem being gay, but drinking is an issue." Who knew? Sometime later, this guy, we got really close. Sometime later, this guy, I said, "How come you don't go to gay meetings?" He goes, "I'm going to tell you this one more time." So, what I believe about this thing, about what's happening to us, this experience that you and I have had. Some years ago, I was sitting with an Indian guru on my little journey, listening to people, trying to find out, trying to get close to whatever it is that saved my life. And my friend and I were sitting with this guy in this room. He had just given a talk in front of a bunch of people, and we were sitting there with him, and I'm talking away. And he looked at me and he started laughing. I said, "What are you laughing at?" And he goes, "I just love you alcoholics and drug addicts." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "The rest of them out there are trying to get awakened. You're just trying to figure out what the hell happened." And I think that's true for us. We've been awakened, and the rest of the journey is to take that awakening and turn it into some kind of an awareness to where we're aware that we're awake, and that maybe there's something that we can do with this. Maybe there's a reason behind this. You know, he sends us each other. We're here in the character defect center of the known universe, practicing on each other how to be friends, how to be lovers, how to be there for each other in a very real way. And it's painful for us. It's painful, you know, as we grow up in this program. And if there's anything I can tell you tonight is that don't run away. When I was 8 or 9 years sober, the sheer weight of my personality crushed me, and I had some kind of a mental and emotional crash. And it took a few years, and I came out the other side of it, and I didn't run away. And my life got better. And I'm married today to a wonderful woman that I love with all my heart. Sometimes I love her so much, it scares me. My heart is opened up. Every time my heart is broken, it has broken open. And I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I live and breathe it. It is the center of my life. Karen sponsors a lot of women. I sponsor a lot of guys. We try to keep them separated. And, you know, she actually tries to match them up sometimes. It's kind of scary, given the gene pool, you know. But I live in a house today like the one that I grew up in. Now I know what my parents were doing as they were saving those people's lives. And that's what we do for each other here, is we save each other's lives. We can't recover without each other. God lives in the space between you and I, and the closer I am to you, the closer I am to God. Thank you very much.